there! Today I am bringing you the try a first chapter tag. I was tagged by the lovely Jen Campbell. I will link her video down below and I will also link the original video down below. So the idea of this is that you pick 5 books from your TBR and you read the first chapters of each of them to decide which you want to read next and give feedback on each as you go in. So that's what's going to be happening. So I've got my 5 books here. So the first 2 are actually... I was naughty this month and got 2 books out of the library because the selection in my library is really improving, which is like the best thing ever. But yeah, it means that I'm kind of torn between just choosing one. So I've got 2 this month. The first one being A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mystery. This is a sort of revolutionary writing, it's a bit of an epic. I don't know much about it. I think it's set in India. I might be completely wrong. Yeah, in India in the mid-1970s. So I've heard quite a bit about this and I actually want to buy it. So I was a bit sceptical about getting it out from the library because I hate getting books out from the library and then having to buy them as well because I've already read them. But I couldn't resist this. I think it's going to be really good. Then I've also got The Book of Mystery by Patina Gappa. So this is set in Zimbabwe and is, I believe, about a woman who is facing death row and trying to get out of it. I don't really know much else about this other than the fact that I think it's basically her writing down her account of what happened or trying to remember what happened. I don't know. But yes, I will be giving this a go. I can remember when this was about on BookTube and I wasn't overly bothered about picking it up, but actually reading the blurb, I was kind of intrigued, so I got this out anyway, so we'll see how that goes. Then I have got Ali Smith's Other Stories and Other Stories. I bought this when I was out with Katie from Books and Things, who I will link down below. She knows I love Ali Smith anyway, and I have been wanting to pick up this book. I was literally in that same bookshop about a week before, and I was umming and ahhing about this book, so I was very glad that she told me to get it, and I want to read it right away. So there's going to be a short story out of that. Jen Campbell also did an alternative version of this video where she did a first short story out of each short story collection. So I am going to do that at some point, but for now we're just going to say that the short story in this is a chapter because I'm cheating like that. Then I've got City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. I started this series about 3 years ago. I'm not even kidding. I've read the first 2. This is the 3rd one. I enjoyed the first 2 for what they were. They were fast-paced, just entertainment books. But I feel like my reading taste has moved on to the degree that I don't know if I could enjoy it anymore. But it'll be interesting to see. I've got the whole series, so it's a bit irritating. But I'm going to read this, or try and read this first chapter, see how I get on with it. This is kind of the decider, or after I've read this book probably, it's going to be the decider as to whether I keep those books or not. So we shall see. And finally, a book on my Kindle is, I think it's Annie Proulx, is that how you spell it? Annie Proulx? I'd say Annie Proulx, I don't know. Bark Skins, which I got off of NetGalley, and this sounds like quite an interesting read. It's not necessarily something I would normally go for, but I was intrigued by it anyway. It's about, I think it's a novelisation about the cutting down of forests and things like that, which is something that I would like to get more interested in. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. So I will read my first chapter and join you back here after I'm done. So I've just finished the prologue section of A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mystery. I really enjoyed it. Basically, so far we're just following a uncle and his nephew. They are on a train and they are headed towards an address that they've been given to become tailors. They bump into somebody else who is going to the same address, but he is going to be lodging there because the woman is a friend of his mother's, and they've just got to the house, and sort of the distinction between the poor tailors and the boy who is going to stay there is sort of being shown, that the tailors are really poor and can't even afford like an ice cream or anything like that, and the boy that is going to stay there was quite shocked about that. So there's sort of the divide already, poor and the rich, and I think it'll be quite interesting. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up just because it is so thick, but we shall see how the rest of the books go. So I've just read the first chapter of The Book of Memory by Patina Gappa. It's not very long, it was only a few pages, but so far we have been introduced to our narrator, Memory, where we learn straight away that somebody has died. Then she goes back into flashback to tell us that her parents sold her to a white man when she was young, and it is him that has died. She is now in prison being accused of his murder, but she hasn't done it, but we don't yet know what's happened. I think there's a bit of a mystery surrounding, she's saying she doesn't know quite whether to tell the police what happened because she doesn't know if they'll believe her or have the imagination to believe her. So I don't know if there's going to be sort of supernatural elements to this, but I really enjoyed the writing so far. I did hear kind of mixed things about this book, but I think it was really well written, and I am intrigued to continue. So I just read the first story in Ali Smith's Other Stories and Other Stories, which is called God's Gift, and was basically about a woman, I'm assuming she had a breakup, and she's talking to her ex-partner, how next door's cat has been bringing her dead birds, and how she went to Greece and her experience there. I have to say it didn't grip me, but I don't think that I'm in the mood for this at the moment, so I don't think I'm going to be picking this up, but I'm sure I will enjoy it a lot when I do. Just read the first chapter of City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. I have to say, I'm glad to have read it. I'm not going to be picking this one, but I'm glad to have read it because it's reminded me that they're not as bad as I would worried that they would be. It's just fun, fast-paced. I won't go into too much because this is the third book. I don't want to ruin anything, but we're basically back with all the same characters. It's quite difficult. It's been over a year since I read the last one, so it's quite difficult remembering, but I roughly remember where we were at. So this is your typical demons, vampires, shadow hunters, which are like demon hunters, and all that fun jazz, and we're right into a battle, so that's all very fun and exciting. So I will be reading this at some point during the month, but I don't think I'm going to pick this up next. So I've just finished the chapter of the last book I was going to be reading today, which was on my Kindle, and that was Bark Skins by Annie Proulx. So this is about, I don't really know yet, to be honest, and I don't know if I'm instantly gripped by it. Basically, it's set in France in the 1600s, and it's about people who are going into the native sort of wilderness of the country and chopping down the trees to make houses and things. There is, well, they call them savages, but I suppose just tribal people who were already living in the woods at the time, who they are capturing and using. And there's also, towards the end of the chapter, it's mention of a haunting wolf that is haunting the forests and following the men. And I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know. It's not something I would normally be interested in, so I'm finding it quite hard. I don't think I'm going to pick it up now, but I probably will be reading this month, so you will hear my thoughts on it at the time. So I think out of what I have read today, I think the one I am most tempted to continue with is The Book of Memory by Bettina Gappa, because it was easy enough to read, but it was beautifully written, and I'm kind of in the mood for something like that, and I think it will be quite a quick read as well, so there's going to be that one, so I will let you know my thoughts after I've read it. It's been really good fun doing this, actually. It's nice to get a bit of a taster of each of the books, and I mean, I probably will end up reading most of these books this month anyway, so you're going to hear my thoughts about all of them quite soon. But for now, I think The Book of Memory is definitely the one that I fancy reading the most. So I am going to tag, to do this video, Katie from Books and Things, Crystal from Crystal Lynn, and Angelica from Mercury Calling, and one more person, Simon from Savage Reads. Bye!